Xbox have decided to treat us all this Halloween, and they dropped another cracking sale onto the Xbox store, with many of these games rarely ever really going on sale. We have a massive spread of genres today, and I've actually had to narrow down my favourite from this list, and I highly recommend you pick these all up as soon as possible. As you may remember though, I do give away a free Xbox game as part of these sales videos every single week. All you have to do is just comment below and you're automatically entered. This coming week, I will be giving away a copy of Chronos: The New Dawn, so make sure to take part if you can. Congratulations to last week's winner, just hit me up on our awesome Discord server and I will get that game right over to you. With that though, let's dive right into the huge sales coming our way for this week. First up, we have Prodeus, and this is a game that combines 90s shooter nostalgia with modern technology and attitude, and it's so bloody brilliant. You can think of it like Doom and Quake colliding in a glorious storm of gore, metal and pixels. It's fast, it's very loud, and every shotgun blast paints the walls in chunky retro carnage. Despite the old school sort of vibe though, it does run with some pretty slick performance on Xbox. It's got some insane fluid movement and all of the modern visual effects that make it feel anything but dated. The level design is also a love letter to speedrunning chaos, full of secrets and alternative routes. It's pure kinetic fun, no filler, just shooting bliss. At £12 after a 40% discount, it's worth every single penny, especially for all of you FPS purists. It was a shame that it left Xbox Game Pass so quickly about a year ago now, but if you haven't had a chance to play it, now's the best time to do so. Keeping in the same vein though, we have Project Warlock, and this one really is a time machine back to the early days of first-person shooters. Think of stuff like chunky sprites, a frantic pace alongside a thumping synth metal soundtrack, and here's your package. This one though oozes 90s energy from every single pixel. It's never just a simple nostalgia trip either, as it layers RPG elements, upgrade systems, and also spellcasting into the mix, giving you more control than old school shooters really ever did. The result is a fast, addictive, and delightfully brutal one. Each level is also handcrafted by the developers, with a ton of different secrets that are tucked into every corner, and a difficulty curve that really does keep you on your toes. At just under £3 after an 80% discount is a ridiculous bargain, and if Wolfenstein 3D and Heretic still live rent-free in your head, then Project Warlock will feel right at home for you. For me, there are very few indies out there that really sort of hit the emotional and mechanical balance that Death's Door really did, and at £3.34 after an 80% discount is an absolute must play for this week for you. You basically play as a tiny crow that's working as a soul reaper, navigating a somber yet beautiful world full of melancholy characters and challenging boss fights. It's such an elegant indie though, and there's a reason why it really does stand out for many out there. The art style looks to blend sort of minimalist charm with gothic detail, and the soundtrack is just pure bliss. Combat feels very tight and rewarding as well, and it's somewhere for me between Zelda and Dark Souls in terms of its difficulty, but with a pace that never frustrates you. Few games that are this small in terms of an indie level ever feel so complete, with so much heart, soul and sword all working in so much harmony. It's one of my top indies of this generation, and for just over £3 is an absolute steal. For all of you watching today, if you want strategy but with a bit more of myth and grit about it, then Northgard looks to blend Norse legend with some clever city building and survival mechanics, and it's one game that really does go under the radar quite massively. You basically control a Viking clan that's carving out its own place on a harsh new land, that's all while juggling food, exploration, and then the looming dangers of the winter itself. It's not just about expansion though, it's about endurance and balancing growth against survival in a world that bites back. It's similar in a sort of way to games like Frostpunk, so you can expect the art to be pretty clean and crisp, the pacing to be pretty tight, and a campaign that's surprisingly deep in terms of its narrative. It is really easy to learn but tough to master, especially once those mythic creatures start showing up once and for all. At £5.84, it's a fantastic deal for strategy lovers, and Northgard really proves that conquest can be calm, clever, and just utterly captivating. Amnesia The Bunker took survival horror back to its primal roots with a ton of darkness, isolation, and a fear of something that's really hunting you. This one is set in a World War I bunker, and you're trapped underground with a monster that not only listens to you, but also learns and stalks your every single move. In essence, only light and sound become your only tools, and even they can betray you as well. The tension is relentless, and all of this is powered by some sort of clever procedural design the devs have made, and it ensures that no two playthroughs ever feel identical. I could never actually bring myself to play this for more than 30 minutes, because to be honest, I got totally freaked out. I will say this one is shorter than the classic Amnesia games, but it's far more intense as every minute really counts here. At £4.20, after about an 80% discount, it's one of the best modern horror experiences for this price point. Keeping in the same sort of genre though, we do have Still Wakes the Deep, and this is pure atmospheric dread but containing an oil rig horror story that's soaked in rain, wind and loads of tension. You're essentially just cut off from the world, trapped on a collapsing rig in the middle of the North Sea with something unspeakable that's lurking in the darkness. There's no combat and no guns, it's just instinct, fear and the constant roar of the storm around you. It sort of reminds me of games like Firewatch in terms of its controls and also the experience, but of course much darker and way more horror filled. The sound design is also phenomenal, as every creak and metallic groan makes your stomach twist and turn. At £10.50 with about 65% off, it's the best price we've seen so far, and it's a must play for fans of narrative horror games like Alien Isolation or even Summer. Few games capture that sheer panic this well, and is one that is such a gem on Xbox to this day. If you've been craving something like Portal, then let me introduce you to the Entropy Centre, and this one will definitely be the game that you need to pick up. This first-person puzzler essentially lets you manipulate time to reverse objects, rebuild paths, and literally uncollapse the world that's around you. It's brainy, funny, and occasionally mind-bending, with so much clever writing that looks to balance charm and existential dread. Your time manipulation gun, named Astra though, provides a lot of humour and guidance here, which I kind of wasn't expecting, and it kind of keeps the experience pretty grounded as things get totally wild. Every puzzle actually feels rewarding to solve in this one. They're actually really logical, layered, and perfectly paced. For me, the presentation is incredibly clean, the visuals are utterly mind-blowing, and the world design is just quietly beautiful in its destruction. At £6, this is one of the smartest indie games that I've played in years. It's not just about solving puzzles, it's about rewinding the end of the world. One game that I recommend this week is £2.68 after a 75% discount, and this is an absolute hidden gem within the Xbox marketplace. It may be a little bit short in terms of its length, but it's insanely stylish and emotionally charged. Strayed Lights is probably a game that you've probably never even heard of before, but it has a fantastic combat adventure that prioritizes flow over anything else. You take control of a glowing being who's trying to restore balance in an entire world of shifting colours and emotions, and the battles this game contains revolve around matching the colour of your aura to parry enemy attacks, and it sort of turns fights into rhythm-like duels of light and instinct. There is no dialogue in this one either, which was pretty strange out the gate. It's just a lot of music and movement, but it actually works incredibly well and guides you through these surreal landscapes. It's similar in its vibe though to games like Absu and Journey, if you've ever played those before, and that's some massive words of praise, especially as this one really does hit that nail on the head. For all of you superhero fans and action lovers that are watching this video today, the Batman Arkham collection is a complete package, and it really showcases some of the best design in all of gaming. Of course, it does include the likes of Arkham Asylum, Arkham City and Arkham Knight, and these are all three critically acclaimed titles that chronicle Batman's struggle against Gotham's worst villains. And honestly for me, this was the last time we saw Rocksteady at their real best. Each game does build upon the last though, evolving from tight atmospheric corridors to sprawling open world environments filled with secrets, side quests, and even the ability to pilot the Batmobile. The fluid combat along with stealth sequences and detective mechanics make you feel like the world's greatest detective at every single moment. You of course do have the legendary performances from Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, which elevate every single bit of the story even further, making this trilogy such a fan favourite. At £7.50, this is the definitive way to experience Batman in gaming form, and honestly that price tag is just still mind-blowing to me. Sometimes a game doesn't need explosions to leave you breathless, and Jusant is meditative exploration at its very finest. First and foremost, this is a climbing adventure about silence, perseverance and rediscovery. You will scale a vast mysterious tower rising above a dried out ocean, while solving light environmental puzzles as you ascend it. There's no dialogue and no combat, it's just you, your rope, your little core companion, and the quiet rhythm of your climbing. The minimalist art direction and soothing soundtrack make every moment feel tranquil, and it's so bloody fantastic, and I think that's why it drew me into it in the very first place. At £10.12, it's one of the most peaceful moving experiences I think I've ever played on Xbox. It is at the moment leaving Xbox Game Pass as well on the 31st of October, so do make sure to take advantage of this discount before it leaves. Deliver Us the Moon was such a thoughtful sci-fi thriller that really mixed quiet exploration with cinematic storytelling, and it was one game I really loved, and I even had a chance to interview the devs quite a while ago now. This one though is set in the near future where essentially Earth has run out of resources, and you play as the last astronaut who's sent to reactivate a dormant moon base. The game alternates between first and third person perspectives, which was pretty unique, and also uses stuff like puzzles and environmental storytelling alongside a sparse soundtrack to sort of draw you into that sort of desolate world. You'll of course though be navigating all of the zero gravity zones, solve puzzle based platforming challenges, and uncover the mysteries that are left behind by the vanished lunar crew. It is a slower burn than a lot of other puzzle platformers out there, but it's one that really rewards all of you who try it with its emotional moments and just stunning visuals. At 80% off, this is such an affordable way to experience such a deeply atmospheric narrative adventure game, and I highly recommend it. Kill Knight was actually one game that I've never even heard of before, and that was until watching a video from friends of the channel Switch Up, and it's a massive amount of weaponized chaos. It is essentially an isometric sort of fest that kind of feels like Doom but crashed into a nightmare rave. You're dropped into a hellish arena where survival really does depend on your reflexes and your rhythm. The combat seems incredibly fast, but keeps all the slickness and brutality we come to expect these days. That means every kill does feed your momentum, and every mistake explodes in noise and gore. The soundtrack from what I've seen so far absolutely slaps, and it's kind of like Heartbeat on caffeine, and the visuals burn neon into your retinas. £6.24 gets you such an adrenaline overdose that never apologises for what it is, and I think that price for a fantastic indie is absolutely incredible. If you want a game that takes Arthurian legend and then corrupts it into something bleak and hypnotic, then you definitely need to pick up Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon as soon as possible. This game isn't about the shiny armor or round tables like you come to expect. Instead, it's a world grasping for air where faith and decay really coexist. You'll battle stuff like twisted knights, wander haunted moors, and uncover stories that are drenched in moral ambiguity. It's a slower and heavier RPG compared to others within the same genre, and it's part open world exploration, part nightmare folklore, and it leans massively into Skyrim elements that we always wanted. At £30, it's only 20% off, so it's still quite a bit of investment, but it earns it through mood and imagination, and it's still a cracking price point. Tainted Grail, as I mentioned, is the Skyrim we always wanted, and the recent updates and improvements makes this an insane pickup for this week. Then we have the twisted reimagining of Pinocchio's tale in Lies of P. This one, if you're unfamiliar with it, drops you into the hauntingly beautiful city of Krat, where nightmares come alive and puppets do run amok. As a mechanical warrior with a conscience, you'll explore fog-drenched streets and uncover a dark mystery that's influenced by your own choices. The combat is incredibly sharp and very deliberate, favouring skill for dodging, parrying, and weapon crafting over brute force, like we see in many Souls-like games. From stuff like corrupted automatons to massive bosses, every encounter will of course demand every single bit of precision and adaptability, as well as your patience of course. This one really is a masterclass in modern Souls-like storytelling, and it also now includes a ton of accessibility options, so if you're not a Souls-like lover or enjoyer, you can actually play it on an easier difficulty. It is now discounted to £25 this week, which is the lowest price point yet, and it's well worth grabbing, especially if you're interested in the additional Overture DLC, as that's also bloody fantastic. I actually came across another gem that I'd never heard of before, but I did immediately pick it up this week thanks to this sale, and to be honest, over the past 24 hours I've been pretty blown away by it. Black Book isn't your typical RPG, instead it's a more folklore-inspired fever dream that's wrapped in card-based combat. In this one you play as Vasilissa, I hope I'm saying that right, and as a young witch that's navigating Slavic myth and moral corruption, where every spell you cast really does carry consequence. The art style feels like a moving painting, and it really does work well here with that card battle aspect, and honestly please don't let the card battle aspect put you off, as this one is an absolute indie banger. The pacing is a lot slower though than the other card battlers out there, which is totally okay, and that's because it wants you to sort of experience that narrative breath. It's poetic and haunting in its equal measure, and at £7.34 it feels like a criminal price point for such an overlooked indie that needs way more attention. So what game are you going to pick up in this week's sale? Do let me know in the comments below. Do remember as well to smash that like button you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos like this every single day. Whilst you're here though, and if you want to check out some awesome Xbox content here on the channel, why don't you check out the video on screen now. I recently covered 21 of the brand new Xbox and Game Pass announcements that occurred over the past week at the Idea Xbox Showcase.